Exploring the latest trends, topics, and things you need to know in travel, it's Can We Talk Travel with destinationwhatever.com. Well, we have an exciting one here tonight. Can we talk travel? You bet we can. It's me, Dave Wentworth, and one of my favorite people of all time. Say your name, honey.
Hi, Dave. It's Helayne Howe in Toronto.
Yes, yes, yes. She's one of my favorite mainlanders, and me out here in Newfoundland. And we're going to take you on a journey over the water over to Morocco tonight. We were here, I can't remember when that was. We talked about our trip to Galapagos, and we had so much fun. We decided that it would be fun to take you to another place that we've traveled to. I was in Morocco way back, like in 2014. So it's like 10
Oh,
years
you're such
ago.
a young kid. You were like 10.
Yeah, I was 10 years old. I was there in a high school exchange. Yeah, so anyway, so I got some clips and some stories from my trip to share with people tonight from when I was over there in 2014. Helene, when were you over in Morocco? It was more recently, I think.
Yes, I went October of 2022. So just after COVID, I had a group of us, I think it was 16 of us. So that was fun being in a small group.
Yeah, cool, awesome, perfect. I was also in a small group as well too, and so that will be the point of view for everybody. We'll just be like looking at, how we saw Morocco on our small group tours. So why don't we get started? I'll put our presentation on the screen so we can get going with this trip over to the Kingdom of Morocco. And there's Helene and I with the flags and the palm trees down in Marrakech. How wonderful. Beautiful blue skies. I love it. So, a little bit about me. If you're new to me, I'm new to you. My name's Dave Wentworth, and I've been a travel agent for 15 years now. And you can find me through my own agency. I'm online. Find me on my website. It's destinationwhatever.com. I've been to 41 countries. Oh my gosh, actually, I need to update that. I've been to 42. I just came back from Tahiti, from French Polynesia. There's a picture of me down there in the Marquesas Islands. And my whole background in travel and why I love talking about travel is that academically, I studied travel and tourism through the lens of international development at Dalhousie University. And along the way, I picked up some foreign languages. So I love foreign languages. I love traveling places. I love taking selfies of of myself in foreign countries. That's a little bit about me. Helene, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yes, after spending 35 years as a safety inspector with the Federal Labor Department, I retired and I followed my travel passion. So this was 12 years ago. So I've traveled to over 50 countries and I just love sharing my experiences and stories because I always have stories. I love adventure travel, meeting local people, savoring foods in each country, and I love the continuous learning aspect of travel. So here we go to Morocco.
Yeah, and you look great in that pink jacket, by the way, with that backdrop. You're dressed from Morocco. What was your last country, Helene? Where did you go last?
Oh, my last country was, my goodness, October. Gee, I have to remember. It's Paris. I did Germany. We did a river cruise just before Christmas, of course. So Christmas markets. It was awesome to just get into the Christmas season and the whole spirit of Christmas was wonderful.
Awesome, awesome. All right, well, I'll get started by introducing people tonight a little bit about Morocco. You know, one of my many hats is that I love to teach about travel and tourism. So, we're at this stage, I'll just give you a little bit of information to set the stage about where Helene and I are going to be talking about. So if you're watching this and you're looking to get some information about Morocco and plan your trip, maybe hopefully this information will be useful to you. So Morocco is a country that's located in Northwest Africa. It is an African country, even though it's really close to Europe, and there's definitely a lot of European influence. It's also a part of the Maghreb world, and Maghreb is a collective term for the countries. If you think about Northwest Africa, from Mauritania all the way up to Libya. So it takes in a lot of the French-speaking countries there, such as Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia. They have a lot of similarities culturally, and so this whole area is, as we say in French, le Maghreb. And the capital city of Morocco is Rabat, and the biggest city is Casablanca, and those are quite near to each other. If you're looking at the map, they're kind of in that yellow, well, they are in that yellow section there along the North Atlantic coast. Morocco, it's a constitutional monarchy, which means that it does have a king and a government. And so you will see the royal family of Morocco, perhaps on currency stamps, things like that. Land borders, it does share a land border quite extensively with Algeria. And you'll see that where Helayne and I went, when we went out to the Sahara Desert, we would have been quite near to the Algerian border. And then also there is a disputed border, Western Sahara territory down below. I say disputed because some people claim it as part of Morocco, and other people say it's Western Sahara. So there's a whole issue there, which I'm not going to unfold tonight. And then in terms of marine borders, North Atlantic Ocean, there's a huge section of that that runs right up the coast. I'll talk a bit about tonight about my time in coastal Morocco. And then up on the top, you've got the Mediterranean Sea, and then the little bit of water that separates Morocco from Spain. That's the Strait of Gibraltar. And so one of the ways that you can get to Morocco is you can take ferries over from Spain. And sometimes as a travel agent, I see a lot of clients, they like to combine Spain, Portugal, Morocco, go over there for a couple of weeks and check it out. So anyway, that's where we're headed tonight. That's a little bit about our host country. Its climate, its language. Maybe you're wondering what they speak, what the weather would be like over there. So I'll tell you a bit about that now. The official languages, there's two. It's Arabic and Amazigh, which is also the Berber language. And so if you're looking at the road sign, the first language you see on the top there, that's Arabic. The second one, that's Berber. But you will find French is present as the colonial language, and it's often found in schools and businesses. And so if you do speak French, you'll be able to use your French in Morocco quite extensively. But, Helayne, maybe you can chime in because I do speak French, so I spoke French in Morocco, but you don't speak French. How did you find communication in
Well,
Morocco?
my French is high school French, so I think I read better. And then having worked in the government, which is a bilingual entity, we had French to use as well. But I didn't find a language barrier at all in Morocco. Most people spoke English
Totally.
well, if so I it was not an issue.
Perfect. And that's the thing too, like, yeah, if you can read a little bit of French, you don't necessarily have to speak
Yeah,
it, but you could see it on the signs, see it on menus. And yeah,
right.
so the point would be that in Morocco, they're really well set up for travel and tourism and visitors from foreign
Hmm.
countries, and you can get around quite easily. Bit about the climate, it's seasonal. So Morocco does experience four seasons. There are mountains in Morocco, which will have an impact in some of the weather features. But summers can be quite hot. I visited Morocco, southern Morocco at that, in the month of August, which is probably like the hottest month to go. And one day the temperatures did reach 50 Celsius. That was really hot for
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
in the desert. And the nights could be
And
quite
when
cold.
when I went in October, I did have to wear that light jacket because it was cold in the desert and sometimes it was windy and we got some rain, so it was a little bit of everything.
Totally. I think if you're preparing for a trip to Morocco with the weather, you got to prepare for a mixed bag.
Right.
Yeah, I made a point here that the coast is a bit more Mediterranean, but even with Mediterranean weather, we can have things roll in off the ocean. We can get fog, precipitation. You can even snow in Morocco. You can go skiing in the mountains. I'll just flick through these kind of quickly, but just some weather averages. The temperatures obviously are higher in the summer, but you can see here in Casablanca on the coast, we might have a
Mhm.
summertime high around 25 degrees. Whereas if we go into the high Atlas Mountains, that's going to go up to 36 degrees. So we can get much, much, much hotter. And if we look in the winter, lows down to 7 degrees. So deserts are an ecosystem that can have extreme fluctuations in temperature. We often think of deserts as hot, which they are, but they can get quite cold as well. And Marrakech, same thing. We can get high temperatures of 37 degrees in the summertime. And in the winter, we can get right down to 7 degrees. All right, Helayne, I'm going to take a break and you can talk about your itinerary and use this map to tell the people where you went.
Okay. So yes, Dave and I went on different trips. We covered most of the country with our separate trips. I started off in Casablanca, which I think most of you might know, with Rick's Cafe, making it a famous place to go. Then we went south towards Marrakech. So both Casablanca and Marrakech have great medinas, very large souks, and you could be lost, for days if you didn't have a guide. Then we went on to, and sorry about my pronunciation. My pronunciation isn't as good as Dave's, but we went to Ait Ben Hadu, which you may not know, but you will most likely have seen in some movies. So we'll talk about that. And there is actually a film studio at Wazarzat. Dave, help
It's
me
a
out.
tongue twister. It's a tongue, but I know what you mean. It's
Um,
called the Atlas Film Studios. It's quite famous.
yes, yes. And then we went to a gorge area and then the Sahara Desert and into the mountains. So we just gone from the coast into a bit of the desert, into a gorge area that was very lush and green and lots of waterfalls. And then we went into the desert for an overnight, proceeded going north to Fez, and then Chef Chawan, which is the Blue City. And then we came back south to Volubilis, and then Rabat, and back to Casablanca. So that was my itinerary, and it was 10 days, mostly in a minivan that we went between these places, staying in a variety of hotels and no, souks, and just very interesting. Oh, and of course, in the Sahara Desert camp. So that was very interesting too.
Right, exactly. And while we got Elaine's map on here, I'll just take a second to drag them out so you can see your map really does a good job of showing the topography, the physical aspect
Mm,
of
right.
Morocco's geography. So there's two mountain ranges. Elaine's itinerary went through both of them, but down through here we have the Atlas Mountains in the south, and then the second chain of mountains. Elaine, do you remember the name of Morocco's other mountains?
Middle Atlas.
No, Rif.
Oh, the Rift.
Yeah. So you get two mountain chains. So, everything on the other side of the mountains, this is the Sahara Desert. And, if these mountains weren't here, really that Sahara Desert would blow all the way to the coast, to the Atlantic Ocean. So this does give Morocco a couple different areas. You can go from fertile valleys and palm trees to desert to mountains to
Right.
coastline. There's a lot of stuff. Hey, just before we move to the next slide and we show the my itinerary, you started and ended in Casablanca, so I presume you flew in and out of Casablanca. What was your flight like to get there? How did you do it?
Yes. So our flight came from Toronto, made a stop in Montreal where we changed planes, and then straight to Casablanca. So fairly easy to get from Ontario, Canada, Montreal, and the East Coast to get to Casablanca. I think it
Totally.
was about 8 hours, like maybe 6 to 8 with the stopover. So not a difficult journey in my mind.
No, it's a quick flight from Montreal. And so Air Canada flies from Montreal to Casablanca. And because it's Air Canada, that opens up connections with Canadian gateways from all across the country. So wherever you might be tuning in and watching us from, if you're interested to get to Morocco, that route through Montreal into Casablanca is great. And another one that's, I think it's new even from when you went to Morocco, Air Transat is flying from Montreal into Marrakech a few times a week. And what's exciting about them is they do partner with Porter. So if you are coming, say, like for example, from Helayne from Toronto, you can get that flight from Pearson to Montreal and then Montreal to Marrakech on Air Transat, all on one ticket, which is great.
Mm, yeah.
So that opens up, especially because Porter is just expanding all across the country. So people can use that Porter flight from your home city to Montreal and then get on a Transat flight to Marrakech. And that's important because sometimes tours might start or end in
Mm,
Marrakech rather than
right.
Casablanca. And if you are also planning and you're wondering about how to get from Marrakech to Casablanca, because sometimes some tours start in one and end in another, that's really easy. There's trains and you can take taxis. It's only a couple of hours, but these cities are very easily linked up. Awesome. I'm going to show them what I did. This is my itinerary. I did this in, like I said, way back in 2014, but the itinerary is the same today because it's a great itinerary. And this is a southern Morocco itinerary. And so I actually had flew into Fez. I was in Europe prior to going into Morocco. And so I just get an easy flight from Morocco or from Europe down to Fez. Spent a few days there and then took the train from Fez to Marrakech. There's a lovely train system in Morocco that was really lovely to use, very easy to use. And yeah, I did this tour from Marrakech. And so from Marrakech, the direction we did it was out towards Ait Benadou and then towards the desert, and then coming back down along the south and working our way towards the coast to Essaouira. And that's where our tour completed. We went back to Marrakech, but yeah, it was great. I really liked going out to the desert and doing the mountains and kind of the hot, dry, dusty stuff, and then getting to come to the coastline after being out in the desert for a few days. That was a really nice way to mix it up. And this itinerary took 10 days. All right, so we're going to talk next about places to see in Morocco because chances are people are like looking to write down a few things and put some things on the vision board. So that's exactly what Helayne and I have for you next. And Helayne, you want to take them up to northern Morocco, perhaps?
Yes, I will. One of the places that made me forget that I was actually in Africa is the Volubilis, if that's again how you pronounce it. It is a UNESCO listed Roman ruins that you see the columns there. It's a Berber Roman city, an example of a large Roman colonial town. So again, it kind of brought me out of Africa and into Roman times, and it just seemed really ancient in terms of the ruins and just the nature of it. So next slide will show the columns. Uh,
I can't
yes.
believe that you just said that it brought you out of Africa. How Meryl Streep of you. But anyway, go on. Tell us about.
I was wondering if you'd catch that.
You bet I did, honey.
Yes, yes. And this is my favorite traveling partner, my sister, Veronica. And she's always up for, the a picture that's funny, not just, of the typical tourist pictures. So yeah, there we are, just amongst the ruins. For an afternoon, we had a guided tour of the ruins, and so if we see the next slide, we'll see more um, of the city and how it is relatively preserved. Of course, you can't go climbing over the stones, and it's marked so that you're staying on the paths. And the next picture, you can kind of just see the top of that middle column. And of course, I had to ask, did somebody just leave a bunch of hay up there? And they are white stork nests, and they can be found all around Morocco. So we did start noticing them after a while. that they'd be on top of minarets and houses and electrical wires. So they're just all over the place in terms of these the stork nests. And Dave, I think you mentioned that you actually saw some in the Alsace in France, these
Yeah,
nests.
yeah. And I mean, I'm not a stork expert, but I think that in addition to bringing babies, that
Yeah,
I think they go down to Morocco for like their hibernation.
right, right. So
And
of
they work
course
their
we were
way
always
south.
kidding about how many babies there must be in Morocco because of all these stork nests.
Yeah, totally. Shall we go to the next
Right.
slide?
Yes, please.
So we're going to go to our next
So
stop.
yes, so we're going to Fez, and of course this is kind of the iconic picture that you see of Fez. This is one of the the old stone-walled uh, containers that they use to as a tannery. So this is the oldest tannery from like the 15th century. And what you don't get, I think, from this picture, yes, they're colorful. They use the colorful dyes. They use some that are just white liquid, I think acid or something, to soften the leather. But what you don't get is the smell of it. So, depending on
Mhm.
where the wind is coming from on that particular day of touring, you just get it like right head on. And when we started going into the building, they give you a handful of mint to kind of put against your nose. And at first, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that smells nice. And then while you're at the top looking overlooking these vats, you're just like, oh, I need more. I need more of this mint because it's so bad. And I wish there was like smell-o-vision or something to warn people ahead of time when they go, because the pictures are just beautiful of all the colors, but you don't get that full-on smell when you overlook these vats.
Oh, I
And the
agree.
other yeah, and I think you experience that too. It's just very overwhelming.
It's like
I
it gets in, it's one of those smells that gets in your nose and you can't seem to get it out of your nostrils. It's just
yes, yeah,
it sticks. And yet yeah, I think you put it really well. Like the leather pots, the brines, they're so colorful. They look like I don't know, paints or something like that. Like it's just
right,
really there's so much beauty there with the leather and the
right,
craftsmanship and what they're making, and yet it smells to the high heavens. Oh my gosh. But I still think,
yeah.
despite, people might be listening to this and thinking, well, should I go? Because they're talking about how bad it smells. I still think people should go and
Oh,
overcome that.
yes,
It's worth it.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now I also put on my other hat as a safety inspector from my previous
Oh,
career,
yes.
and what I saw were men mostly in the vats with their feet and they're like, stomping them like grapes. And I'm
Right,
thinking,
right.
okay, like, are they not in acid and really strong chemicals to, like I said, soften the leather? So I'm just like, oh, wow. Like, I guess safety's gone out the window here. And I doubt there's any safety inspections.
Totally. All right, well, let's bump it along because I love what you
Okay.
have coming along here, your
Oh,
story for
yes.
Fez.
Okay, so Fez, like I said, is has one of the biggest Medinas, souks in the world. It's ancient, and this is the type of alleyway that you would see, kind of dark, dingy, very narrow. And luckily, like I said, we just followed the guide because he's like, okay, we're going for dinner and it's some restaurant. It's like, okay.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
follow. The bus dropped us off probably about 15 minutes ago. And we just kept going and going and turning and another corner. And it's the largest car-free zone area in the world. So there's no cars, which is great. But oh, they do allow donkeys. So one corner we turned, I went right into face to face with a donkey, and he wasn't moving. So I'm just like flat against the wall, letting him pass with all his merchandise that was piled on the back of him. So that's how they get their goods into the Medina and the souks through these alleyways. Anyway, so we finally get to this doorway, which was kind of nondescript. It was very nicely decorated. Um, there was no name. I have no idea. Is there the next picture, Dave? And then once we went through this little doorway, it opened up to like a three-story restaurant, and just the inside was gorgeous, like carved wood and marble and the tiles. Like you just couldn't determine that from the look of it outside. And I swear, if you asked me where we were or to take you back to this place, I would have no idea. So I don't know the name of it. I think I might have taken a picture of the menu, so I would have a name. But it was quite the experience. There's our group at the bottom picture, having dinner, and so with dinner came entertainment. So Dave, the next picture was this fire-eating woman who did belly dancing as she went to do these tricks. It was amazing and quite the show. So again, a very great experience to have in Fez.
Yeah, I want to go back and see that. That looks really cool. I don't know how she
Well,
does that.
and like I said, I would have to ask the guide to tell you how to get there.
Honestly, yeah, I probably wouldn't be able to figure it out on myself. Awesome. All right, let's go to your next stop in northern Morocco. This place looks really special.
It's like you said, it wasn't on the original itinerary, but I had read about it and I wanted to go. So I had them add it on because it was a private group. I added it on for our group and we spent a night just outside of Chefchaouen. So we spent the morning or the afternoon there and dinner. And it's just so blue, like I don't know how many shades of blue. Just incredible. And I think the blueness, which is supposed to represent the sky and the heavens, but it just brought such a peaceful serenity to the place.
Well, we got
Unlike
some pictures of it
Fez, where
here.
there are thousands of people and doing lots of stuff and carrying on goods and here and there, this just had a very just kind of made you stop and appreciate the surroundings. It was relatively quiet. Again, there weren't any cars in Chefchaouen.
Hmm.
And it just was, we had time for a tea. We just kind of sat and relaxed. It just had that feeling. And I don't know, maybe it was the blueness, but it just like every building had a different shade. And I think there was one picture I took that did not have blue, but it was, I believe the city, it was in the 1970s that said all the buildings had to be blue to be more of a tourist attraction because it is a bit out of the way. If you look at the map. And so they wanted to attract more tourists. So this is at dusk of the city, and it just had this kind of it's magical to just look at it. The sun was just setting and the blue and then you see the minarets of the mosques that were just starting to light up.
This would be a photographer's dream, I can only imagine. Let's take a look at the next picture because I love this one. You can see all those different shades of blue that you were talking about. Like, look at the door and the walls,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
So it was just kind of wandering around. We did our own thing. There was no guide because he said, well, it's small enough that, you can wander around by yourself and I know I'll find you at the end. So yeah, like I said, it just was very serene and just no rushing around to do things or to see things, just walking down, oh, what's down this alley? And what's in this doorway? And then you find a little corner with coffee or a tea that you can just stop and have a refreshment.
Totally. I see some
Yeah.
cats milling about too. So many cats in Morocco. Cats, cats, cats.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They come up in some of my pictures later on. I love this picture of you
Yeah.
as well, and the plant pots and everything here. Wow.
Yeah.
Would you
Yeah,
say that
and I
it blew
mean,
you away?
I didn't have to wait very long for, yeah, like no people in the pictures. You know that where some of the other places is like, oh my God, there's so many people and you just want one picture without others.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So you were able to get your moments here.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
And then I like this picture here because
Oh,
you can see the blue bouncing off of your white clothes.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I have to admit that yes, we wore white on purpose. So my sister and I are in the shot, and it just really captured our closeness and our relationship. And we had started out, as I said, we were separated. We did our own thing in Chefchaouen. We walked around by ourselves, but then we happened to find each other. And so that was kind of cool, is that like I said, I don't think you'd be able to do that in Fez, but we managed to meet up in Chefchaouen without any plans. So that was nice. And yeah, it's that quintessential picture of my sister and I.
I love that. I can feel the love in this picture.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. I hope that if I get back to Morocco to go to this place, it looks amazing. So awesome.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. All right, so moving along, we're going to jump now into South Morocco with both of us. So Helayne and I will be tag teaming this section because we both traveled through these areas of southern Morocco together. And southern Morocco is just truly a treasure trove of various sites. So maybe I'll just take a start at Marrakech because that's where my tour began. It
Okay.
started and ended in Marrakech. And so, like I said, I took the train down from Fez to Marrakech. Marrakech is the end of the train network in Morocco, but you can get all the way from Tangier to Marrakech on the train, and they're excellent. And then again, there's the international airport there with those air transat flights. But Marrakech is the gateway to southern Morocco. And one of the big sites there, and it reminds me of what Helayne was talking about with the Medina in Fez. In Morocco, there's the Place
Hmm.
Jemna El Fna, and that is a large Medina, a large marketplace there, where again, there's no vehicles. You're going through that on foot, and probably best to have a guide because there's a lot of tight, narrow passageways, and the whole thing's like a labyrinth. So I don't know, Helayne, did you get to the Place Jemna El Fna when you were in Marrakesh?
Yes, and we got there kind of late afternoon into the evening. So as the light got less, yes, these lamps were beautiful in some of the stores, but it got a bit harder to see in these alleyways because there are really no other like street lights. You're
Yeah.
just wandering around. So again, we did have a guide who got us from one end to the other end. And a couple of times I said, "Oh, can we go down here?" He's like, "No." So I don't know what was down there, but we're not
Right.
going.
I think sometimes there's just dead ends, and I think sometimes there's just alleyways that don't go to anything in particular.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, there's no way to really understand these ways when you're as a visitor. I think when you just roll up, the guides are essential. I loved seeing this
Oh,
Jumnat and El Fna was my first real experience with a Moroccan marketplace and seeing the spices and how they were piled up into these beautiful
yeah,
little mountains. I loved that.
yeah. And so colorful. I mean, I know this was not filtered or anything that you did to the picture. That's just how bright and colorful.
Everything is, and then I think we get
Yeah.
some rose petals maybe down in the lower left and some
Hmm.
dried fruits
Hmm.
and different things there. And yeah, Morocco, just tons of color and a great spot too to pick up some spices. Maybe on a tour, you could do a cooking class. There's food tours to
Mhm.
Morocco. It's definitely a place for food lovers. Well, I
Mhm.
must admit, I didn't, Marrakesh was not the highlight for me. It was kind of a gateway. It was cool to go there, but I was there to use it as a way to get on into southern Morocco. And so that I think one of the coolest things down in southern Morocco is the site of Ait Benadou, which is near
Right.
the city of Ouarzazate. And Helayne, you went there as well. We've both been there.
Yes, it's lovely little place. Again, kind of out of the way, but just a gem in the middle of Morocco, really.
Totally. I just love that, this picture. I loved, I love looking at it and just admiring
Mhm.
it. But one thing that people might want to know as well too is that you can go into it as well. Like it's a whole kind of like living history museum experience. Here's your group at Ait Benadou.
Yes. So, did you like your visit to a Casbah?
I think that I rocked my visit to the Kasbah, if I may say so myself. Every time I hear the word Kasbah in Morocco, I would always think about that song. It would go through my head.
Yes.
It was like
Yeah. Yeah.
playing on loop in my brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. It's
Yeah.
like you just expect parties when you go into these walled cities, what they call Casbahs, and they're neat, but they're not. It's not a disco happening inside.
No, no. And then, of
So,
course, Medina's would make me think of the song Funky Cool Medina as well.
oh
So,
yeah,
yeah, a lot
yeah,
of music references when I was in Morocco going through my head. But no,
yeah.
this picture for me, when I was going through the pictures preparing for today, I love that there's like double rainbow behind you guys as well.
Yes,
One.
yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was just kind of that opportunity that you look back and there was like the first rainbow and it was kind of fading and then there's the second one. Okay, everybody group up. We need a picture.
Yeah.
And it's like that's got to be quick.
So I'm just wondering because, of course, you were there in October. I was there in August. When I was there in August, there was not a drop of rain the entire time.
Oh,
But you guys must have maybe had some rain if there's a rainbow.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was in between kind of a downpour, I would say, and then it kind of went down to a drizzle. So we all had our kind of rain jackets on. So
Mm,
we were prepared, but it was windy, so half the group actually stayed on the bus because it was pouring when we left the bus, and then it kind of cleared up when we got to the top.
totally, totally. Here we have another picture of
Oh,
the
so
Benadou area. And so you
yeah,
can
yeah.
also see in this picture that, in southern Morocco, the desert is dominating
Mm.
in the landscape, but you do get these green areas, these
Right.
oases in the
Yeah.
in the desert that pop up.
Yeah.
And truly, other than that, it's a dry, arid environment out there, folks. This is a picture that I think has a story to go along with it.
Yes, like I said, I do love to talk to locals and just find out a bit about themselves. So initially, this was an artist in I Benadu, and he does it with a flame and a torch, and he burns the paper and makes these lovely pictures. And so I do have a couple of those at home. But really, the story that he has, if you go to the next slide, is that he's very proud to be in the movies as, as a background. So he's pointing to him in the huge crowd of people, but very proud of the fact that he's in the movies.
Yeah.
So if you go to the next one, there's this is I'm not sure exactly. It's probably Game of Thrones. It was more recent. So they had, Game of Thrones. I think if you're a fan, you would know those two characters um, in the picture. So again, his English was a bit limited, but he was very proud to show his pictures and where he was. I'm like, I can't really see you, but okay.
But this area has been used for filming for ages. That's why there's that film studio that's out there. We talked about that
Right.
earlier. I think Ben-Hur was filmed out here back in the day. Like, this
Oh,
is an
yeah.
area that has been used for movies for a
Mm,
long time. European movies,
mm.
North American movies, a lot of productions have taken place in this area of southern Morocco. In fact, when I was there, Tom Cruise was in the area. Not that I got to run into Tom Cruise,
Oh,
but one of the Mission Impossibles was being filmed in
oh,
southern
yes,
Morocco.
yes.
And it came up for us actually after leaving Ait Benadou, we had to take a detour because the main road that we would have taken was closed for the filming. They had that closed for they needed to shut off the road. So we had to go 30 minutes out of our way because of Tom Cruise. But anyway, whatever. Awesome. So I think the next stop for most people, this is like the big moment. I think a lot of us, when we think about going to Morocco, our mouths are watering to see the Sahara Desert. I know for
Yes.
me, it was the top of my expectations. How about you for heading over there?
It was definitely on the top of my to-do list. I didn't want to read too much about the experience before I went because I wanted to experience it. And it was, I mean, we did the sunset, we did the overnight, we partied in the desert, saw amazing stars. I mean, it's just so
Oh, I
dark.
see.
And then just being able to sleep and then wake up the next day and go early and catch the sunrise in the Sahara. So it was the full deal. And
Totally.
now I do have to say, riding on the camel was not entirely comfortable. So I think, I could have used a bit more padding. There is an option with our group that they could have stayed at the hotel that was at the edge of the Sahara, so you didn't need to go into the Sahara with camels. But of course, nobody chose that because that's why you're there in the Sahara to be able to do this experience. And
Totally.
we're allowed one carry-on which, like I said, it's just one quick overnight, so you didn't need much. Um, if you go to the next picture, Dave.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this was not filtered. The sand is that red. So the sun, coming down and rising, just that golden glow just made it glow so much better in the red Sahara sand.
Totally. I like this picture as well of
Oh,
some vehicles and then the sun setting as well.
yeah, yeah. So no, sorry, this is the sunrise.
Oh, I see.
Um, yeah, yeah. So like I said, there are cars, so you can opt for other options of travel into the desert. It was a 1 hour or so camel ride. So again, there are other things that you can do to get into the Sahara. But it was also funny because we were on the camels and we would ride by these 4x4s or cars that were stuck in the sand, and everybody had to get out of their vehicles and push. It was just really funny to watch them, again, go do that experience is pushing this car out of the sand.
I think this picture reminded me of one of my takeaways in the Sahara was just being out there, how
Yeah.
endless it seemed just to go on
Oh,
forever and ever and ever.
yeah.
And it made me feel really small. It almost made me feel
Mm,
like a minuscule grain of sand myself.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
This
like
this
those
picture
cars
it
are,
belongs in a magazine. This was a great picture that you
oh,
took.
yeah. Well, yeah, the camels are pretty funny because there was one that was just spitting at people. It's like you'd walk by and it would just spit at you.
I love it. Here you are,
And oh,
hol-
yes.
holding the sun in your hands.
Yeah.
I
So,
love it.
the guides know where the best pictures are and where to put you and how to get you, in that iconic picture that so this is my husband and I it's quite an experience to share with him. And again, this was the sunrise the next morning, so we did survive our night in the desert.
Totally. Well, I think this picture is your accommodation, and I tried to
Yes,
show the bedding and maybe an area where you could freshen up. So maybe you can tell us a bit
yes.
about your digs in the desert.
Okay, so they did have one bathroom or two bathroom tents. So the main picture is of the washrooms. There were no showers per se, but we, like I said, it was just overnight. There's the sink and running water, and then we had our tent with the beds that were quite comfortable. Obviously, they're tent design, so you're not gonna get much privacy, but you're just so tired anyway at the end of the day that we're just gonna crash. And then we're getting up at 4:30 or 5, so we're on our way to see the sunset or sunrise.
Totally. It's
So,
such a quick night. It really is.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I would say as well, like, in case anybody, is watching this and they're wondering, well, what does the day like? By the time you get to the edge of the desert where the road stops, basically, and either you're going to
Mm,
that hotel at the edge or you're making your way out to the camps, I mean, you're
yep.
well into the late afternoon at that point, if
Yes.
not early evening. And so there's only a
Right.
little bit of sun left of the day. And so
Hmm.
you're out there, it's the night and you're back out the next day. You're not out in this desert for, 52 days or something like that.
Right. Right. Oh,
This
yes.
was my tent from the outside, and it wasn't as nice as in the inside. Yours was all beautiful and purple. It looks like Prince could have stayed there, but mine was a bit more Spartan. And so we actually ended up bringing our beds onto the outside. So what you see there is the wrought iron, the bed basically. There was a thin kind of futon type of mattress that was on
Oh,
there. And I
okay.
think I've already, and when I took this picture, I'd already pushed that back into the inside of the tent where it belongs. But yeah, we laid out. We actually drug our beds out and slept out under the stars. Again, I was there in late August, so it was hot on top of hot, and the
Ah,
best way
okay.
to sleep felt like
Yeah.
being out in the stars because again, it gets so cool in the desert.
Hmm.
So it wasn't
Hmm.
teeth chattering cold, but it was just
Right.
refreshing. And then
Yeah.
I was really into yoga at the time. I was just stretching my body, but I like this picture because it showed where we were just again that endlessness that just goes on and on and on and just nothing out there. And yet there is a silence of the desert. But yet there's a sound to there's almost like a hum how quiet
Yes.
it's out there.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
here I am on my camel, making my way out there as well with as well. I bought that blue, my headpiece. I bought that
Oh,
in
yes.
Morocco as well, and people will find those available. But talk about the color blue in another way. I have never really ever found anything that has that color of blue like you find out in those scarves in Morocco, that indigo
Mm,
blue. And it's just such
yeah.
if you're a lover of the color blue, and I know many people blue, it's their favorite color. This is a blue. This is just such a beautiful blue. Anyway, love that.
Yeah.
Speaking of blue, why don't I take you towards the Atlantic Ocean and the coast? My itinerary went a little further south and then also out to the Atlantic, out towards Essaouira. So I have a few pictures to show people, a little bit to share with people about that. But one of the coolest things for me was on the way out there, was the argan tree goats. Now I'm really into argan products to begin with, argan soap and shampoo. Helayne,
Ah,
do you
okay.
use any of the argan products in your regime?
Well, I didn't before Morocco. So
Ah, okay.
Morocco, yeah, we stopped at a women's co-op that made argan. And I mean, I didn't realize that you can eat it as well as putting it in your hair. So, you learn something new
So
all
many
the time.
uses for it. So many uses. But yeah, these
Yeah.
goats, this was actually at a women's collective as well, and they were soap makers. So they were using the argan oil to make soaps. Again, it can be used in a variety of cosmetic applications. But that's what they were doing. So that's where they took us. But again, the women in the soap, that was all very well and good. But the star of the show were these goats that would jump up into the tree, and they go up in the tree and they eat the argan nut and then pass it, and then anyway goes down its process and eventually it becomes soap for us. But yeah, these are the goats. And this is
Yeah.
actually a file picture I had to pull because the day I was there, I didn't happen to get a great picture, but I wanted our viewers to actually see what it looks like. And this is what it looks like. These goats just get up and these trees, there's not much to them. And I just, when I was looking at it, I was like, how are these goats being supported up in
Yeah.
this tree? But anyway, they get up
Yeah.
there. And then from there, we continued towards the Atlantic Ocean. And so when we came out of the desert where it meets the Atlantic Ocean, we were in the town of Agadir. And I just got this one picture of Agadir because we weren't there for that long. We didn't overnight in Agadir or anything. We got there a little bit in the late morning, and we went to a grocery store, and it was an opportunity for us to get some ingredients. And then we went to the beach and we had picnic for lunchtime. And then we continued driving that afternoon to Essaouira, to the next stop.
Okay.
So we were only in Agadir for a little bit of time, but I will tell you that it made an impression on me for people that like to do. I know a lot of people like to go over to Portugal, to go to Spain for a couple of weeks. People, snowbirds are looking to, get out of Canadian winter. People are looking for new destinations now for their snowbird escape. I think
Right.
Agadir would be a great spot. I think
Yeah.
if someone was watching this, a great way to spend a month in Morocco would be to do a tour for a week or two and then go to
Oh.
Agadir because there was great self-catered apartments. There was a lot of Europeans that were there, a lot of French, a lot of Brits. There was big modern grocery stores, like all the modern touches of life were in Agadir. I just think it would be a great spot to go if you were just
Hmm.
looking to plunk it on a beach. And after a busy
Yeah.
tour in Morocco, that might be a nice thing to do. But I was only there for a few hours for my picnic. Our overnight was in Essaouira. And so that is about 3 hours north from Agadir. We went 3 hours north up the coastline. Like Helayne, my tour was done in like a touring minivan situation. And so yeah, this city of Essaouira, it's kind of get this boho vibe on the coast. Again, a lot of color blue getting represented here, and the white as well. They talk about the blue and the white in Essaouira.
Mm.
And walking around, this was from our hotel, and I could tell, like, I would know how to get from the hotel to kind of like the main square. So I'd be good to get in and out. But like some of the other areas we've talked about, these places are a labyrinth and they just weave and go on, and you
Yeah.
could really get lost back there. Essaouira is on the coast, so it has a walled city, and so the ramparts, so you can walk up around there. We had seafood as a group, which was really nice, and just more pictures of the coastline and more blue represented in the boats that we see here, but also in the surf of the Atlantic Ocean. Essaouira is a city that's just inspired artists and other creators and musicians. I believe Jimi Hendrix spent time there. So it's got a real, again, kind of boho, laid back, artsy vibe. And I really love that because I found my tour in Morocco was super busy. Our days were
Yeah.
just filled with doing things and getting
Right.
around Morocco as well. One thing that surprised me is when I picked Morocco, I thought, oh, it looks quite small on the map. We won't be in the tour van long, but the drives were
Mm.
actually quite long. And I don't know how you found it, Helayne, but like you'd look at the map and the road would never go from A to B. It would be switchbacking through the mountains, and it just took time to get from place to place. How did you find the roads and getting around Morocco?
Yeah, like you said, they were longer to get around, but there were always stops, like, stop for lunch,
Totally.
stop for a break, things like that. So it wasn't just 8 hours in the van. And then our guide happens to love karaoke, so he would put on songs, and we would just be singing in the van. So it
Passing your time.
passed the time.
Yeah, so however you like to pass time in the van, whether it's karaoke, taking a nap, maybe reading on your Kindle, just prepare for a few car rides in Morocco. All right, so we're going to talk about some of our top highlights. Here I am. This was my morning of after my night surviving in the desert. But Helayne, you have two top moments to share, and so the first one is back to the Sahara. Why was this a top
Yes.
highlight for you?
Well, like I said, I didn't read too much into the experience before, so it was more or less a surprise. But what was really amazing was we were in the dark for a while. So we saw the sun set, and obviously it got very dark in the desert, no lights, no just the stars. And, we're traveling in the dark, and all of a sudden you go over a little hill, and this oasis is desert camp with lights and carpets, laid out for us, and little tents
Hmm.
came into view. And it was quite the experience just to see that in the desert all of a
Totally,
sudden.
totally.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a good time. The guides and the cooks and whoever was there just, they had these instruments and they had songs, and we had a campfire, uh, great food. So it was a really good, a top moment for me.
Perfect. And then your second top moment.
Yes, I am glad we put in the Chef Shawan, the Blue City. Like I said, it would just had a different vibe from the other big cities and the big Medinas and all the hustle and bustle of getting things done, and getting from one end of the place to the other end. And this was just very laid back and very soothing. It was a nice afternoon spent quietly, kind of just enjoying a coffee, a tea, dessert, and just wandering the streets or the alleyways, knowing that you're not going to be lost.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can take this one on your own. Well, some of my highlights, one thing that I liked, and I can't remember exactly where we did this in southern Morocco. I want to say it was in Ouarzazate, but I could be wrong on that. It was definitely heading out towards the desert, though, where we were starting to have encounters meeting the Berber people, so again, the
Mm.
traditional nomadic people of this part of northwestern Africa. And I love essential oils and scents and musks and cosmetics and things that I can rub on my body, lotions and potions. So I really enjoyed going to a traditional parfumerie. And in addition to some of the perfumes, the essential oils, they had different other healing things. It was kind of like a Berber pharmacy and some of their
Mm.
naturopathic ways of towards wellness. And just another thing I loved, and
Oh,
this is one
right.
of Helayne's pictures, just to acknowledge, to give credit where it's due. But I think we both enjoyed watching the tea getting poured, watching them spill the tea in Morocco. I loved that. They would just pour it from such an amazing height, and the tea tasted really good too. The mint tea.
Yeah.
But anyway, loved, loved, loved that. Hey, we should, before we sign off for people, we should talk about Moroccan food. This is another one of your pictures, but we see the tagine dish, olives, French pastries. Where was this picture from? Do you recall?
This was our first morning in Casablanca, so it was our buffet breakfast, and I just kind of went around and around and didn't know what to eat first, and like you said, there was just a multitude of delicacies, sweets, then savory, and then also, like you said, the olives and the other, I think there are prunes in that dark one there too.
Probably prunes. I think I
So,
see dates as well. Yeah.
or dates. Oh yeah, dates. I think it was dates because we went to one place that had dates.
Yeah, so Morocco is a producer of dates, oranges, lentils, couscous. I mean, Morocco does have a lot of its food that it does produce, and it shows up in the cuisine. I'm also vegetarian, and so I can definitely point out that Morocco is a very
Yes.
vegetarian-friendly spot. If you let people know that you're vegetarian, you can definitely be accommodated there.
Hmm.
So this is
Hmm.
another food picture. I know
Oh,
that
another
you
food
sent me
picture.
so many food pictures. I could only pick a couple. Where was
I
this
know,
one
and
from?
these dishes are just side dishes to the main meal.
Mhm.
So, oh, just to kind of get you started, here's some like sides to go with your meal. So there's potato and rice and beans and beets, red peppers, I think,
Yeah, I
and
think
other
so.
great stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, really healthy, nutritious food
Hmm.
in Morocco, and lots of spices, lots of flavor. They definitely know how to put together some food.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And I found that Moroccan food, and perhaps even to a larger degree, Moroccan culture, just the whole vibe of Morocco, it wasn't necessarily Arabic food, even though there was Arabic influence in the language. And it wasn't necessarily European food. Morocco's really got its own cross section. It's got influence from so many different angles, and then it's got its own thing going on. And so, anyway, we end up with something really special. All right, well, I think
Yes.
we've told the people enough about Morocco. Why don't we tell them about some itineraries? Helayne, let's have you tell people about this itinerary.
Yes, this is similar to my itinerary that I went on. However, it starts in Casablanca and ends in Marrakech, and it's a National Geographic journey with G Adventures, and it's for 9 days. It is a elevated level of service with some inclusions that you wouldn't get on a regular G Adventure tour, and it really hits the same highlights that I went to, except for the Blue City. And the price point is right now about 2,000 Canadian per person. And there is a great Canada discount right now for some journeys. So, take a look at what G has to offer. That, and they are born in Canada, as they like to say, and their head office is in Toronto.
Absolutely. And you are right about those special prices because I did see some departures that were down around $1,700. So again, if
Mm,
people are, watching this and they're wondering how Helayne and I might be able to help you out, and I'll get you some of our contact info in a couple of slides. But basically, we work live in the system. So when you see those great prices, we can help you, get those deals. But it's not just about, a low price. It's about what you get for that price. And what I see here is 9 elevated days in Morocco for under $2,000. Sure, you need to get your flight to Morocco, but still, I think that's a heck of a deal. I wanted to show people this itinerary, which is Morocco encompassed. And so this is with Intrepid Travel. And to opposite, two things that make it opposite of what Helayne showed us. This is a longer trip. This one is 18 days, so it's twice the length. With your flights, you're definitely going to be looking at a 3 week holiday. I know not all of us have the ability to travel for 3 weeks, but if you do and you want to see all of Morocco, I think this trip would offer you everything. It begins in Casablanca and you take the train up to Tangier and then you start working your way south. So you get to go to the Blue City and you get to see Fez. You can go smell those leather tannery pots and then you work your way by train down to Casablanca, or sorry, down to Marrakech. And then you do the Southern Loop, basically the tour I did. So as well, this is a tour that's a combinational tour. So you have part A, the northern section from Casablanca to Marrakech, and then part B, the Marrakech to Marrakech loop, which is what I completed back in 2014. So if you are short on time, or maybe you're just interested in northern Morocco or just southern Morocco, there's a few ways that this tour could be broken down to make the right
mm,
tour for you. But it's
yeah.
affordable. I mean, you could do this whole thing for under $2,000 plus flights. So, yeah, I think it's a great idea. If you want to talk more about Morocco, Helayne and I are here. We can help answer questions. We can provide quotes. We can place tours on hold. We can book. Helayne, what can we not do for these people? I think we can do it all for them when it comes to Morocco. So we really love talking about travel, in case you can't tell. And Helayne, I have to ask you, where the heck is this picture from with you with this teapot? I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, I just had to pour the tea.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm a little
yeah,
teapot. No, you're not. This is a
yes.
huge teapot. But anyway, totally. No, I love that picture. So yeah, so that's us. So if you want to
Okay.
get in touch with us, there's our info. So for me, you can reach it. You can email me info@destinationwhatever.com. You can visit my website, destinationwhatever.com. Helayne, what's your contact info?
I don't have a website, but you can email me at the email address on the screen. And I just want to say yalla yalla, which
Yalla
means
yalla.
let's go.
Let's
Let's
go.
go.
Let's go. I say shukran. Shukran katir. Thank you very much for being here tonight, Helayne. And also, I
Thank you,
just will
Dave.
let people know that Helayne might not have a website, but she doesn't need one because she is so responsive on her email. So if you liked hearing Helayne and you want to reach out to Helayne tonight, she will get back to you. She is good. She is organized, just like a former federal government employee would be. So
Well, I have to thank you, Dave, for getting me to do something I wouldn't do on my own, which is all this technical stuff. So thank you for, making me do something that I wouldn't naturally do. Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. And I think that you have an important image to put out there, which is that there are a lot of people. I see these people because I've been doing travel for 15 years that, are newly retired and they're at a point in their life where, the kids have moved out and they've got the free time, they've got the money set
Oh,
aside to
yeah.
travel and they travel and you're in that demographic. But there's a lot of people that hold back. And that those are the people that I like to get to the most because if you want to bite into the world of travel, if you want to do these things, really, what is holding you back? And nothing holds you back. You're always on the go. And I love that about you. What's your next trip? Do
Well,
you know where
that's
you're headed?
that's that's what we do. And if you have any qualms about traveling anywhere, Dave and I will certainly set those worries aside.
Yes, we'll get you there.
I'm off to the Mediterranean in June on a cruise ship on Celebrity Cruises from Italy to Montenegro to Croatia and back to Italy. So,
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
yeah.
I don't know what's next for me. I mean, hopefully
Yeah.
I'd like to do something polar towards the end of the year, but I don't want to wait all the time without having something between now and then. So we'll see if I can slip something in. I've even just putting these slides together for Morocco has been making me think about going
Yeah.
back to Morocco. It's a great destination if you're just looking for something short and sweet because
Yeah.
it's jam-packed and it delivers
Yes.
as soon as you step off the plane.
Yeah,
I guess
for
those would
sure.
be my closing thoughts on Morocco. Helayne, did you have any closing thoughts before we wind
Well,
it
that,
down?
like I said, it's easy to get to, not too far in terms of plane ride. And then it's so diverse in Morocco. Food, culture, climate, just people that you meet. You have it all.
You have it all. It's safe, it's clean, it's friendly, it's accessible. It really does check all the boxes. And I think it just gives that right mix of adventure and something
Mhm.
different. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Awesome. All right, everybody. Well, Helayne and I thank you for tuning in and paying attention and being here. If you've stayed this far into the presentation, we really thank you. We look forward to seeing you at the next time. Helayne and I will definitely come back and talk again, but I'm going to be back towards the end of April just to let people know that I have a presentation coming up. It is going to be on April, what day is it in April? The 28th. You think I would know off by heart. April 28th, I'm going to be back to talk about my trip with Aranui, and I'll be joined with
Oh,
my friend
right.
Jamie, who went on it. So it'll be a similar style to this one with Helayne. We'll just be there to talk about our experiences and just a lot of firsthand storytelling about two bros traveling across the South Pacific Ocean on a cargo ship. Now, Helayne, you followed that trip of mine. Is that something you think
Did.
you would like to do one of these days?
I would like to do the Marquesas and the South Pacific. So you did whet my appetite for sure.
Well, that's what we do. We inspire people for travel. Well,
Yes.
everybody, I hope you've been inspired
All
today.
right.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
See
Good
you.
night. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching. This has been a Destination Whatever travel production. Subscribe for all my content. Facebook at Destination Whatever, Instagram at destinationwhatever.travel, and YouTube at Destination Whatever. Or head on over to my website, destinationwhatever.com. I'm your #1 travel expert, helping travelers nationwide explore the world. So get in touch and let's make your travel fantasies come true.